to end Maid's abusive ex. Nora Bennett crashed through the front doors of the Kane mansion at 11 p.m., blood streaming from a gash on her forehead, her uniform torn at the shoulder, gasping for breath like she'd run a marathon. Her keys were still clutched in her white-knuckled fist, blood on the jagged edges. She'd injured Garrett with them, drove them into his arm when he grabbed her throat in the parking lot, and told her if he couldn't have her, he'd make sure no one could. Security rushed her immediately, but she pushed past them, stumbling toward the main house. "I need to see Mr. Kane." Her voice came out ragged, desperate. "Please, I need to see him now." Theo Kane was in his study with his underboss going over shipment routes when his head of security radioed that his maid just stumbled in, bleeding and terrified. Theo was moving before the man finished talking, taking the stairs two at a time. He found Nora collapsed against the foyer wall, shaking, trying to wipe blood from her face with trembling hands. What happened? Not a question, a command. Nora looked up at him with eyes wide with terror. "My ex. He was waiting for me. In the parking lot. He said," her voice broke. "He said if I don't come back to him, he'll deal with me. He meant it. I saw it in his eyes." Before we dive into this story, smash that subscribe button, like, and comment below if you think she made the right choice running here. Theo's expression went from concern to something lethal in seconds. He called for his personal doctor, then crouched in front of Nora and spoke with forced calm. "Tell me everything. From the beginning." The doctor arrived within minutes, started cleaning the gash on her forehead while Nora told the story she'd been hiding for 3 months. About Garrett, her ex-boyfriend who seemed perfect until he wasn't. About how the control started small. Checking her phone, questioning where she went, who she talked to. About how it escalated to screaming, to pushing, to that first slap he apologized for with tears and promises. About how leaving him 6 months ago should have been the end, but became the beginning of a nightmare. "He won't leave me alone." Nora's voice shook. "He shows up at my apartment at all hours. Calls from different numbers. Follows me to work. Tonight, he was waiting by my car, with this look on his face like he'd made a decision. He grabbed me, slammed me against the car, put his hands around my throat. Told me I had 1 week to come back, or he'd make sure I regretted ever leaving him. Did you report this to police?" Theo's voice was dangerously quiet. Nora laughed, the sound hollow and bitter. 3 times. They took statements. Said they couldn't do anything without evidence of immediate threat. Garrett's family has connections with the department. His uncle is a sergeant. Nothing ever comes of my reports. Theo stood, pulled out his phone, made a call. "I need everything on a Garrett." He looked at Nora. "Garrett Price. Garrett Price. Everything. Criminal history. Family connections. Known associates. Current location. I want in 1 hour." Theo ended the call and looked down at Nora. "You're staying here tonight. Guest suite on the 3rd floor. Security will be posted outside your door." "I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm telling." Theo's tone left no room for argument. "You work in my household. That makes you my responsibility. And no one threatens my people." The doctor finished stitching Nora's forehead, prescribed painkillers, and left with instructions to rest. A housekeeper appeared to escort Nora upstairs. She followed on unsteady legs, still processing that she was spending the night in a Mafia boss's mansion because her ex-boyfriend was hunting her. The guest suite was bigger than her entire apartment. Luxury she couldn't comprehend. She showered, washing Garrett's touch off her skin, then sat on a massive bed in borrowed pajamas and finally let herself cry. Not from pain, but from exhaustion. She was so tired of being afraid, so tired of looking over her shoulder, so tired of living in survival mode. A knock on the door made her jump. "Come in." Theo entered carrying a tray with tea and food. "Eat something. You're in shock." "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway." He set the tray on the bedside table and sat in the armchair by the window. "We need to talk about your situation." "There's nothing to talk about." Nora wiped her eyes. "Garrett won't stop until I'm dead or back with him. Those are my options. I just keep running and hope he gets bored or makes a mistake that actually gets him arrested. Those aren't your only options. What else is there? I can't afford to move across the country. Can't afford a lawyer to get a restraining order that actually means something. Can't afford private security. I'm a maid, Mr. Kane. I make minimum wage. I have no power here. Theo studied her for a long moment. Then I'll give you power. What? I'm going to make you a proposition. It's unconventional and possibly insane, but it'll solve your problem permanently. Nora felt her pulse quicken. What kind of proposition? Pretend to be pregnant with my child. The words hung in the air like a bomb. Nora stared at him, certain she'd misheard. Excuse me? Let everyone believe you're carrying my baby. Move into this house officially. Wear a ring. Play the part of my partner. Theo leaned forward, his gray eyes intense. Garrett will hear about it within hours. The entire city will know you're under my protection. He'll have two choices: back off completely or challenge me directly. Either way, your problem gets solved. That's insane. Nora's voice rose. Why would you do that? What do you get out of this? I get to eliminate a predator. Theo's voice went cold. And I get to send a message to every man in this city who thinks he can abuse women without consequences. Garrett will be an example. You want to kill him. Only if he's stupid enough to give me a reason. If he backs off, he lives. If he comes after you again, he's given me justification to handle him. Either way, you're safe. Nora's mind raced. This was crazy. Fake pregnancy? Living with a mafia boss? Pretending to be his partner? But what was the alternative? Keep living in terror? Wait for Garrett to make good on his threats? What if people don't believe it? What if Garrett knows it's fake? Let me worry about making it believable. Theo stood. You just have to play your part. Move in here. Act like my partner in public. Let me handle the rest. And when this is over, when Garrett is dealt with, then you're free. You can leave with enough money to start over anywhere you want. New city, new identity if you need it. Where you can stay and keep working here with better pay and better security. Your choice. Nora looked at this dangerous man, offering her an escape route from hell. She thought about Garrett's hands on her throat tonight. Thought about the promise in his eyes that next time he wouldn't let go. Thought about how tired she was of being a victim. Okay. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. I'll do it. I'll pretend to be pregnant with your child. Good. Theo moved to the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start making this look real. And Nora? From this moment forward, you're under my protection. That means Garrett touches you again, he's a dead man. Understand? Yes. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Nora sat in the massive bed of the guest suite, her hand unconsciously moving to her flat stomach, and wondered what kind of insane deal she'd just made with the devil himself. The next morning, Nora woke to find designer clothes laid out on the chair in her room. Expensive brands she'd only seen in magazines. A note in sharp handwriting read, were these: breakfast at 8. We have work to do. She dressed in tailored pants and a silk blouse that fit perfectly, wondered how Theo knew her size, then decided she didn't want to know. At 8 sharp, she found him in the dining room with his inner circle, 5 dangerous-looking men who stopped talking the moment she entered. Gentlemen, Theo's voice cut through the silence. This is Nora Bennett. As of today, she's pregnant with my child. She'll be living here under my protection. Anyone who disrespects her answers to me directly. Anyone who fails to protect her answers to me fatally. Clear? The men nodded, their eyes on Nora with new calculation. She forced herself to meet their gazes without flinching. Nora, sit. Theo gestured to the chair beside him. Eat. You're eating for 2 now. The casual way he said it, like the lie was already truth, sent chills down her spine. She sat, accepted the food his housekeeper brought, and tried to eat while 5 Mafia enforcers watched her like she was a fascinating puzzle. Garrett Price. Theo addressed his men while cutting his steak. I want everything. Where he works, where he drinks, who he associates with, what he owes, who he's afraid of. I want pressure applied everywhere until he's desperate enough to make a mistake. Boss, one of the men spoke up. Word's going to spread fast if we're asking questions about him. That's the point. Theo's smile was cold. I want him to know we're coming. I want him scared. Scared men make stupid choices. After breakfast, Theo took Nora to the most exclusive jewelry store in the city. The staff recognized him immediately, ushered them to a private room. Theo pointed at a display of engagement rings. Pick one. Nora stared at diamonds that cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. I can't. You can, and you will. This needs to look real. Pick the one you like, or I'll pick for you. She chose the simplest one, a single diamond on a platinum band. Theo slid it onto her finger himself, his touch surprisingly gentle. Perfect. Now everyone who sees you knows you're mine. The word mine sent heat through her chest she didn't want to examine. From the jewelry store, they went to the most expensive restaurant in the city. The kind where reservations required weeks of notice unless your name was Theo Kane. He'd specifically chosen a place known to be frequented by Garrett's social circle. They sat at a window table, visible to everyone. Put your hand on the table. Theo instructed quietly. Let them see the ring. Nora obeyed. Theo reached across and covered her hand with his, the gesture possessive and intimate. To anyone watching, they looked like a couple deeply in love. His thumb stroked her knuckles while they talked, his eyes never leaving her face. You're good at this, Nora said softly. The acting. I'm not acting. Theo's voice was low. Everyone in this restaurant needs to believe you're carrying my child. That means I need to look at you like you're the most important person in my world. Because right now, for this plan to work, you are. His intensity made her breath catch. She reminded herself this was just strategy, just part of the plan. But when Theo looked at her like that, it felt real. They were finishing dessert when Nora's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and went pale. It's him. Show me. Theo held out his hand. Nora passed him the phone. The message was short and vicious. Saw you at Winston's with your new sugar daddy. Playing dress-up won't save you. You're still mine. Good. Theo set the phone down. He's watching. He's rattled. Now we push harder. What does that mean? It means we make this so public he can't ignore it. Theo signaled for the check. Tomorrow, you're moving your things into my house officially. I'm taking you to events. Making sure every person in this city knows you're under my protection. And when Garrett inevitably loses control and comes for you, I'll be ready. They left the restaurant with Theo's hand on the small of her back, guiding her protectively. Cameras flashed, paparazzi who followed Theo everywhere. By tomorrow, photos of them together would be all over social media and gossip sites. In the car, Nora asked the question burning in her mind. Why are you really doing this? It can't just be about sending a message. Theo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, my mother was killed by my father when I was 8 years old. Beat her to death in our kitchen while I hid in a cupboard and did nothing because I was too small and weak to stop him. I swore that day I'd never be powerless again. Never watch someone hurt another person without being able to stop it. Nora felt tears prick her eyes. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Use it. I'm offering you power, Nora. The power to make Garrett regret every time he put his hands on you. Take it. That night, Garrett showed up at the mansion gates at midnight. Security alerted Theo immediately. Cameras showed Garrett pacing outside, clearly drunk, yelling. Nora heard the commotion from her room and froze, terror flooding her system. Theo found her within minutes, standing by her window with her arms wrapped around herself, shaking. He's here. I know. Theo moved to stand beside her. And I'm going to handle it. But I need to know, are you sure you want this? Once I go out there, once I confront him, this becomes real. There's no going back. Nora thought about 3 months of living in fear. About Garrett's hands on her throat. About spending the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. I'm sure. Good. Stay here. Theo headed for the door. Wait. Nora's voice stopped him. What are you going to do? Whatever's necessary. And then he was gone. Nora watched from her window as Theo walked out the front door alone. Watched Garrett see him and start screaming about Nora being his, about the pregnancy being fake, about how Theo couldn't keep her from him. Watched Theo stand completely still, letting Garrett rant, his posture radiating controlled violence. Then Theo spoke. Nora couldn't hear the words, but saw their effect. Garrett stumbled back like he'd been hit. Theo kept talking, his voice too low to carry, but his body language crystal clear. This was a threat, a promise, a declaration of war. Garrett tried to charge forward. Security appeared from nowhere, restraining him. Theo leaned in close, said something directly in Garrett's ear that made him go white. Then Theo turned and walked back inside, while security dragged Garrett off the property. Theo came to Nora's room minutes later. She was still by the window, her heart racing. What did you say to him? That you're carrying my child, that you're under my protection, and that if he comes near you again, I'll consider it a declaration of war and respond with everything I have. Theo's gray eyes were cold. I also told him I know about the 3 other women he's harassed in the past 2 years, that I have evidence of his assaults, and that I can make it all disappear or all go public, depending on his next move. Will he back off? No. Theo's certainty was chilling. Men like Garrett don't back down. They escalate. He'll come again, probably within a week. And when he does, I'll have the justification I need to end this permanently. You wanted to come back. I'm counting on it. This is a trap, Nora, and he's going to walk right into it. 5 days passed with no sign of Garrett. 5 days of Nora living in the mansion, adjusting to a life she never imagined. Designer clothes in her closet, security following her everywhere, staff treating her like she was actually important, and Theo constantly present, checking on her, asking how she felt, making sure she ate properly like she really was pregnant. On the 6th day, Theo took her to a charity gala, the kind of event where the city's elite gathered to write checks and judge each other. Nora wore an emerald green dress that hugged her body, her engagement ring catching light with every movement. Theo's hand never left the small of her back as they moved through the crowd. People stared, whispered. The ruthless Theo Kane, with a woman on his arm, was news. The rumor she was pregnant made it explosive. They were standing by the bar when a woman approached. Tall, blonde, dripping with diamonds and contempt. So you're the maid who trapped Theo Kane. Her voice was sugar-coated poison. Congratulations. That takes skill. Nora felt heat flood her face, but before she could respond, Theo's arm wrapped around her waist and pulled her against him. Rachel. His voice could freeze blood. I'd introduce you to my partner, but she already knows trash when she sees it. Rachel's face went red. You can't speak to me like. I just did. Now leave before I have security remove you. Rachel fled. Nora looked up at Theo. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Anyone who disrespects you disrespects me. His gray eyes held hers. Get used to it. This is your life now. The intensity in his voice made her pulse race. She reminded herself this was pretend, just an arrangement. But standing there in his arms, his body warm against hers, it felt dangerously real. They left the gala after midnight. In the car, Nora's phone buzzed. She checked it, and her blood went cold. It was a photo of her and Theo at the gala, her in his arms, both of them looking at each other with obvious intimacy. The message below read, enjoy playing house while you can. This isn't over. Garrett. She showed Theo the phone. He studied it without expression. He was there tonight, watching. Good. Let him see what he's lost. Let it eat at him until he breaks. You're really using me as bait. We're using each other. Theo's voice was matter of fact. You get protection. I get justification to eliminate a predator. Don't pretend this arrangement is one-sided. He was right, but it still stung. Nora turned to look out the window, suddenly exhausted. Back at the mansion, she headed straight to her room. She was changing into pajamas when someone knocked. Come in. Theo entered, still in his tux. We need to talk. About what? About the fact that you're angry with me. I'm not angry. Nora pulled on her robe. I'm just tired. You've been quiet since I said we're using each other. Theo moved closer. Did I say something wrong? No. You said something true. This is a transaction. I need to remember that. Is that what you think this is? Isn't it? Nora met his eyes. You get to kill my ex and look like a hero. I get to not die. Business arrangement. Theo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, when Garrett grabbed you in the parking lot, when you came here bleeding and terrified, I felt something I haven't felt in 20 years. Rage. Not the cold calculation I use for business. Real fury at the thought of someone hurting you. That's just. Let me finish. Theo stepped closer. These past 6 days, having you here, taking care of you, seeing you smile when you feel safe, that's not part of any plan. That's me realizing I want you here. Not as bait or strategy. Just here. Nora's breath caught. Theo, you don't mean that. Don't tell me what I mean. His voice was rough. I know this started as an arrangement, but somewhere between the jewelry store and tonight, watching you handle Rachel without flinching, seeing you wear my ring like you're proud of it, this stopped being fake for me. The confession hung between them, heavy and undeniable. Nora wanted to respond, but didn't know what to say. This was her employer, a mafia boss, a dangerous man she should fear. But all she felt was pull, magnetic and impossible to resist. The moment shattered when Theo's phone rang. He answered, his expression going cold. When? Where? His voice was lethal. Keep him there. I'm coming now. He hung up and looked at Nora. Garrett's brother Shane approached one of my men at a bar. Said Garrett knows the pregnancy is fake. That when I get bored of you, you'll have no one to protect you. That it's only a matter of time. Fear spiked through Nora's chest. He knows. He suspects. There's a difference. Theo moved to the door. Stay here. I'm handling this. Take me with you. Absolutely not. I'm not a child. Nora's voice was steel. If they're talking about me, I deserve to hear it. Theo studied her, something like respect crossing his face. Fine. Get dressed. Something warm. This might take a while. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a bar on the edge of Theo's territory. Shane Price was being held in a back room by two of Theo's enforcers. He looked nervous but defiant when they entered. Mr. Kane, Shane tried for bravado. Didn't realize I couldn't have a drink in this city without permission. You can drink wherever you want. Theo's voice was calm. But delivering messages from your brother about my partner? That's crossing a line. She's not really your partner. Shane's eyes flicked to Nora. Garrett says the pregnancy's fake. Says you're just using her to get to him. And what does Garrett plan to do with this information? Shane hesitated, then said, he's coming for her. Soon. Says no man protects another man's woman this hard unless she's worth taking. Says he's going to remind her who she really belongs to. Nora felt ice flood her veins. Theo's expression didn't change, but the air in the room grew suffocating. Tell Garrett I'm waiting. Theo's voice was death itself. Tell him the moment he makes a move, I'll be ready. And tell him that Nora isn't his to take. She's mine. In every way that matters. Shane nodded frantically. I'll tell him. One more thing. Theo leaned close. If anything happens to her, if she gets so much as a scratch, I'm holding you personally responsible. You and every member of your family. Understand? Shane went pale. Understood. Outside, Nora was shaking. Not from fear, but from adrenaline. He's really coming. I know. Theo guided her to the car. And when he does, I'll end this. What if he hurts me first? What if? He won't. Theo's certainty was absolute. Because I'm not letting you out of my sight until this is over. You can't watch me every second. Watch me. His gray eyes held hers. You're mine now, Nora. I protect what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't felt in years. Wanted. Valued. Worth protecting. In the car, Theo made calls, mobilized his entire network. By morning, every person in his organization would be watching for Garrett, waiting for him to make his move. Nora watched the city lights blur past and thought about how her life had transformed in less than 2 weeks. From terrified, made to protected partner of the most dangerous man in the city. From victim to someone who mattered. And somewhere along the way, she'd stopped pretending. Stopped seeing this as just an arrangement. She'd fallen for Theo Kane. Fallen for his quiet protectiveness, his fierce loyalty, his unexpected gentleness when they were alone. She was in love with the devil. And God help her, she didn't want to go back. Garrett made his move 8 days later at 3 in the morning. Nora was asleep in her room when alarms blared through the mansion. She jolted awake, disoriented, as her door burst open and Theo strode in fully dressed with a gun in his hand. Stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me. What's happening? Garrett's on the property. Brought friends. Theo's voice was ice. This ends tonight. I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. He came for me. Nora threw off the covers, pulled on clothes with shaking hands. I'm not hiding while you fight my battles. This isn't a debate. You're right. It's not. Nora grabbed his arm. I've spent 6 months running from him. Tonight, I face him. With you beside me, or I go alone. Choose. Theo stared at her, fury and respect warring in his eyes. You stay behind me. You don't move unless I say. And if I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Understood. They moved through the mansion with Theo's security team flanking them. The house was on lockdown, every entrance covered. Through the windows, Nora could see figures moving in the garden, try to find a way in. How many? Theo asked his head of security. 3. Garrett and 2 others. All armed. East garden near the fountain. Trap them there. No exits. I want them contained. They reached the east garden through a side entrance. Floodlights suddenly blazed to life, illuminating Garrett and 2 men with guns. They spun, temporarily blinded, and found themselves surrounded by Theo's team, red laser sights painting their chests. Garrett's eyes found Nora, and something feral crossed his face. There you are. Been looking for you, baby. Don't call me that. Nora's voice was steady despite her racing heart. Why not? You're mine. Always have been. This rich asshole can't change that. Garrett gestured wildly at Theo. You think he really cares about you? Think he won't get bored and throw you away like the trash you are? Put the gun down. Theo's voice cut through Garrett's rant. You're surrounded. This is over. It's not over until I say it's over. Garrett's gun swung toward Nora. She comes with me, or nobody gets her. Theo moved faster than thought, putting himself between Garrett and Nora. His own gun aimed directly at Garrett's head. You point that weapon at her again, and you're dead before you pull the trigger. You won't shoot me. Garrett's bravado was cracking. Too many witnesses. Too much heat. You're not that stupid. Try me. Theo's voice was absolutely certain. I've been waiting for you to give me a reason. You broke into my home, threatened my partner, brought weapons onto my property. I have every legal right to put you down like the rabid dog you are. She's not really pregnant, is she? Garrett's laugh was unhinged. The whole thing's fake. A setup to get to me. Does it matter? Theo's voice was cold. Real or not, she's under my protection. That makes her untouchable. You should have walked away when you had the chance. I can't walk away. Garrett's voice broke. She's mine. I love her. She belongs with me. You don't love me. Nora stepped around Theo, despite his warning. You never loved me. You love controlling me, hurting me, making me small so you could feel big. Nora, get back. Theo's voice was sharp. No. She moved closer to Garrett. Her fear, burned away by months of rage, finally released. I was terrified of you for so long. Spent every day looking over my shoulder, wondering when you'd show up, what you'd do. But standing here now, looking at you, all I feel is pity. Garrett's face contorted. You bitch. After everything I did for you, everything you did to me. Nora cut him off. You isolated me from my friends. Control my money. Check my phone. Hit me when I didn't obey fast enough. That's not love. That's abuse. And I'm done being your victim. You can't just leave me. I already did. 6 months ago. You're the one who can't let go because your ego won't accept that I chose myself over you. Garrett raised his gun again, this time directly at Nora. If I can't have you. Theo fired. The shot hit Garrett's shoulder, spinning him around. The gun flew from his hand as he collapsed screaming. His 2 accomplices immediately dropped their weapons and raised their hands in surrender. Theo's security swarmed them. Garrett writhed on the ground, clutching his bleeding shoulder, while Theo stood over him with cold fury. You pointed a gun at her twice. That's 2 more times than I needed. You shot me. Garrett's voice was shocked, agonized. You actually shot me. Should have killed you. Theo's voice was conversational. But she asked me not to, so you get to live. In prison, where you'll spend the next decade remembering this moment. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Theo had already called them, already arranged everything. When they arrived, the scene was clear. 3 armed men broke into private property, threatened residents. One was shot in self-defense after aiming at an unarmed woman twice. Garrett and his friends were arrested on the spot. Attempted home invasion, assault with a deadly weapon, criminal threatening. Combined with the evidence Theo's people had gathered of Garrett's previous assaults, stalking incidents, and harassment, he was looking at serious prison time. As paramedics loaded Garrett into an ambulance, he looked at Nora one last time. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Nora's voice was final. You're going to prison. And when you get out, if you ever come near me again, Theo won't miss next time. Move on, Garrett. I have. The police took statements, examined evidence, and finally left satisfied this was a clear case of self-defense. Dawn was breaking when a mansion finally went quiet. Nora stood on the terrace watching the sunrise, emotionally exhausted but feeling lighter than she had in months. It was over. Actually over. Garrett was going to prison. She was safe. You should be sleeping. Theo's voice came from behind her. Can't sleep. Too much adrenaline. He moved to stand beside her. You were brave tonight. Stupid but brave. I needed to face him. Needed him to see I wasn't afraid anymore. You really weren't. There was respect in Theo's voice. When you stepped around me, my heart stopped. But watching you confront him, watching you take your power back, that was incredible. I learned from the best. Nora turned to face him. You've been teaching me to be strong since the day I crashed through your doors bleeding and terrified. You were always strong. You just needed someone to remind you. They stood in comfortable silence, watching colors paint the sky. Then Nora said what had been building for days. This started as fake, an arrangement to trap Garrett. But it's not fake anymore. Not for me. Theo's gray eyes held hers. Not for me either. So what happens now? The threat's gone. I don't need protection anymore. The arrangement is over. Is that what you want? For this to be over? No. Nora's voice was certain. I want this to be real. All of it. Not because I need protection or because it's strategic. Because I've fallen in love with you and I don't want to leave. Theo pulled her against him, his arms wrapping around her with fierce possession. Then don't leave. Stay. Not as part of a plan. As my partner. My equal. The woman I choose every single day. Even though the pregnancy was fake. About that. Theo's voice held something she couldn't read. How opposed are you to making it real? Nora pulled back to look at him. What? I want this. All of it. You in my home. In my life. In my bed. And eventually, if you want it too, I want a family. Something real to build together. Tears filled Nora's eyes. You're serious. Completely. I've spent 20 years building an empire because I thought power would make me happy. But these past 2 weeks with you have been the happiest of my life. You make me want to be better. Not just stronger or richer. Better. Kinder. The kind of man who deserves you. You already deserve me. Nora pulled him down for a kiss that was desperate and relieved and full of promise. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she said yes. To all of it. To staying, to building something real, to everything. 6 months later, Nora stood in the same mansion that had once been just her workplace, but now was home. Garrett had been sentenced to 8 years in prison. His friends testified against him in exchange for reduced sentences. Every day Nora woke up knowing she was safe. Actually, genuinely safe. She and Theo built something neither of them expected. Real partnership. He brought her into his legitimate businesses, valued her opinions, treated her as an equal. She helped him transition more operations away from violence toward legal enterprises. Together, they created something balanced. And then one morning, Nora woke up nauseous. She took a test with shaking hands, stared at the 2 pink lines, went to find Theo in his study, and held up the test without speaking. Is that? His voice caught. Real this time. Nora's smile was trembling. We manifested it. Theo crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms, and laughed until tears ran down his face. We actually did. The fake pregnancy became real. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. Their daughter was born 9 months later. They named her Hope because that's what they'd given each other. Hope that broken people could heal. Hope that dangerous men could choose gentleness. Hope that love could bloom in the darkest places. On Hope's first birthday, Nora found Theo watching their daughter sleep with an expression of wonder. What are you thinking? That a year and a half ago, you crashed through my doors bleeding and terrified. And now you're my wife, and we have a daughter, and I can't remember what my life was like before you. Lonely. Nora wrapped her arms around him from behind. Both our lives were lonely. Not anymore. Theo turned to pull her close. Never again. Years later, when people asked how they met, Nora would smile and say he saved her life. And Theo would correct her. Say she saved his first by refusing to stay a victim, by choosing to fight back, by being brave enough to accept help from the most unexpected source. The truth was they saved each other. A maid and a mafia boss. A fake pregnancy that became the realest thing in both their lives. Proof that sometimes the most dangerous plan is the one that leads to the safest place, home. From fake pregnancy to real family, from victim to survivor to victor, from strategic arrangement to genuine love, Nora and Theo prove that sometimes the craziest plans lead to the most beautiful outcomes. She got her freedom. He got his redemption. Together, they got forever. Want more stories of fierce protection, unexpected love, and powerful transformations? Smash this love story. Comment which part was your favorite.